Sort of northern end of Redcar Beach. Redcar was a site that I visited twice last year, which produced a couple of really good birds, greater sand plover and king eider. I travelled up yesterday, about a 6-hour drive up to Darlington, where I crashed out for the night, and lots of time to think actually about all of these twitching. It's not for everyone. It can be quite tough. I actually had pretty bad run from spring to sort of midsummer actually, where I ended up dipping on 10 birds on the trot. So very demoralising, but you know, self-inflicted wounds and all that. But anyway, since then, the birding gods have been kind, and I've actually connected with everything that I've been going for, and today was no exception. But before I really go into what's happened today, let's just backtrack a little bit, back to last weekend, where I managed to actually pick up 3 British ticks. On Friday the 1st of September, I headed southwest in England in search of a scarce North American wader. Part 1 of my journey took me down to Exeter in Devon, where I spent the night, which was about a 4-hour trip, and the following morning I continued on for about another 2 hours down to Marazion Beach, which is close to Penzance in Cornwall. On arrival at the site, I noticed a couple of things. There was a group of shorebirds feeding at the tide line in front of me. Off in the distance I could see St Michael's Mount, and then when I scanned further down the beach I could actually see a group of birders, which you can't see in this shot, but they seem to be looking at something. But I thought I would check this group out that was in front of me, and there was dunlin, turnstone, ring plover and sandling. And to my absolute shock, I managed to locate the bird immediately, which was feeding amongst them. And the bird that I'm looking for is Buff-breasted Sandpiper. And to be honest, I've already found it. I've got a couple of photos. A dog has now put the bird up, so I'm going to continue to see where it's settled down, but looking hopeful. As you can see, I've managed to relocate this bird, and again, this is Buff-breasted Sandpiper. This is a rare but regular North American wader that turns up here. So these birds breed on the open tundra in the high Arctic up in northern Canada and Alaska, and the majority of the population, when they're on migration, actually push through the middle of North America, but some of the population move down the east coast, hence why some of them then get pushed over to the west coast of the UK. They are regular. I believe that they're annual in Ireland, and but these guys actually are long distance migrants and spend their winters down in South America, the majority of them in Argentina. So it's a bird that I've actually seen on the west coast of North America in British Columbia and in Washington. So obviously some of them do push down that side as well. Anyway, it's been a wonderful morning seeing this bird. It's a little frustrating because obviously you get lots of walkers and dog walkers along the beach, and it keeps on pushing the birds up and away. I'm sure they're used to it, but it's quite frustrating. when you're sort of trying to look at these birds. But anyway, yeah, it was a great success. I'm really happy to have this bird now on my UK list. And so now I think that I'm going to make my way over to Porthgwarra and do a little sea watch, and hopefully maybe get something like a Corey shearwater, or maybe a sooty shearwater or something like that. Well, that was a magical time at Porthgwarra, doing a little sea watch. You know, besides that, I mean, the scenery there is just spectacular. But the sea watching was fantastic, and I managed to get 2 more British lifers. So I got 42 Corey shearwater, and I mean, I've heard, well, I spoke to a birder there who had about 400 fly by yesterday evening. But I got there later in the sort of in the morning, and anyway, yeah, got 42 Coreys, and I actually got a sooty shearwater, which was fantastic. Another British tick for me. There was also quite a few Manx and Balearic moving through. Lots of gannet, a few shags, so, and a couple of northern fulmar. So yeah, an absolutely brilliant way to spend an hour or so. And I'm now going to be sort of slowly making my way home. Once parked up, I started to walk north towards South Gare Lighthouse with some other birders who had arrived at the same time. Off to the right and to the east was a wonderful sunrise, which really brought hope and warmth. And then off to the left is the main bay, where the River Tees empties into the North Sea, and to the north of that you have Hartlepool. Regardless of how far you've come on a twitch like this, the walk out to the viewpoint seems the longest part of the journey. You know, distant birders on the horizon beg the question: are they looking at the bird? Have they seen the bird and it's flown? Or are they simply just scanning for the bird? And of course, none of those questions will be answered until you get there. And this is really where the anxiety levels start to build. And I'm sure that's partly due to the fact of your quickening pace as you get nearer to the site. However, today there was no need to worry. The bird was there. On arrival, there was probably over 60 birders on site, some of them actually down more towards the lighthouse. But as soon as I got myself up and focused on the buoy in front of me, I was able to get my first look at this wonderful bird. So this distant blob on a green buoy is Brown Booby. It is a very rare bird here in the UK. And to give you a little idea of what it looks like up close, I've put in a few photos of Brown Booby that I took out on Ascension Island back in 2015. And so you can get a real sense of what this bird looks like. But fortunately, the bird didn't stay at distance for too long. It made a flight more into the bay and landed up on a buoy there, affording a lot of us really good views. So Brown Booby is a tropical species. It's found really in the warm waters off of sort of Central America. It's found in the Pacific, Atlantic and Indian Oceans, so a very long way from home. In terms of its rarity, this bird is a mega. There has been 10 records since 2016. The first bird recorded and accepted was off the west coast of Ireland at Kerry, and then after that came a bird seen out of Swalcliffe, Kent in 2019, and in that same year there was 3 other reports that were accepted out of Cornwall. The next bird that came along was a bird reported off the Isle of Wight, in 2020. So for this year, there was a brown booby reported with red-footed booby off the Isles of Scilly at the lighthouse there. For anyone who had been to that or was on that boat during that time, that was a real red letter day for them, that's for sure. And then there's this bird at South Gare, and there has been a bird reported up in Scotland. So yeah, an absolutely fantastic bird to see. And after I got my fill of this incredible tropical bird, I then headed over to Saltholm RSPB Reserve, which was about a 35-minute drive to actually see my second buff-breasted sandpiper. A bit like buses, these birds, you know. None of them come along, and now 2 of them have come along in a week. So this bird was viewed from the roadside just outside the reserve. I did go onto the reserve and try to get a better look, but that I only got a brief look at the bird from that side. Unbelievable. So I got a second viewing of this wonderful North American scarcity. So the last bird before we round up I would like to talk about is a bird called an Aquatic Warbler, and this was found near Upper Beeding in West Sussex. And so during the midweek after work, my good birding friend Nick Tanner and I headed south down to Upper Beeding, about an hour and 20-minute drive, and then took a short walk out along the River Adur to the viewing point. On arrival, there was about 7 birders there, and they were scanning at very close quarters in foliage in front of them. Now the bird was there, it was being very secretive, and this bird no doubt is just really concentrating on feeding to put on some fat reserves before it heads off to West Africa, where it will spend its winter. But being patient paid off, and after about 20 minutes we got some really good looks at this bird through the foliage. Unfortunately I wasn't able to get any photos, but kindly Shaun Ferguson, another birding pal of mine, has allowed me to use a photo that he took just a day or 2 before, and as you can see in this photo, he got a fantastic shot. Shaun has his own YouTube channel, which on it you'll find many rare birds, some great videos there, and also he's got some fantastic trip reports, the latest being a 3-part episode that took him out to South Africa, which is, you know, it was very informative, really well put together, and a great watch. So I'll put a link to Shaun's site in the descriptions below. Anyway, that's it for now. I hope you've enjoyed this latest episode of Seashore Birding Adventures. And until next time, happy birding, and I'll see you in the field.